Hey, and welcome back to the Deep Well Podcast. So glad you're here. Today, we're going to talk about one of the most asked about topics in the fitness industry and probably the most misunderstood: protein. We're not going to talk about it in a complicated way. We're going to keep things super simple and practical. And hopefully, by the end, you'll know exactly how much protein you need, when you should eat it, and where you should get it from. All right. So let's dig in and talk about the first big question of how much protein should you be eating every day? The simple answer is we want to aim somewhere between 0.7 grams per pound of body weight and 1.25 grams per pound of body weight. So let's look at that as an example. If you're a 150-pound person, you're going to want roughly 105 to 187 grams of protein per day. Now, I know that's going to sound like a lot to some people, and for most people, it probably is because they're significantly under eating. And that's the point of this podcast. We want to help you understand if you're going to get results in the gym, you've got to fuel your body with the protein it needs to build the muscle that you're looking for. So think of it this way: if you're never working out and you want to feel better, you have to have more energy, will be on the lower end. And if you want to build muscle and achieve a specific look or strength, then we're going to need to be up on the upper end. It's also going to matter on where we are in age. If we're trying to preserve muscle mass, we're going to want to try to eat a little bit more. If maybe we're a little bit older and we're trying to conserve that. If you're super active, you're going to need to have a little bit more than somebody who's less active. If we're eating in a calorie deficit, we're going to need to eat a little more protein to make sure we're telling the body, hey, I still want to build muscle. So there's all kinds of good things that come from eating protein and eating proper amounts of protein. So the next thing is going to be timing. So when should you eat your protein, and does it matter? Now, it's number one goal: hit your target throughout the day. Spread it out the best you can. I'd say somewhere between 30 to 40 grams per meal is going to get you to that target. And we're not going to be just flooding the body all at once with a bunch of protein. There is a time and a place for intermittent fasting, and we'll talk about that in another episode. But for right now, let's speak. If we're trying to just get protein in, hit a target, let's spread it throughout the day so we're not consumed with just a ton of meals or a ton of protein all at once throughout one or two meals. And then there's a nice window after your workout, 1 to 2 hours after you work out, your muscles are primed and ready to absorb protein. So this is when, a protein-rich meal or a shake would be most impactful. And so spread it out again, 20, 30, 40 grams, depending on what your goal is: breakfast, lunch, dinner, and that should get you there. And I'd say don't skip breakfast. How you start your mornings will really dictate your day. So if you can get your body full with some rich protein early in the day, that's going to help keep you full. It's going to help keep those hunger cravings away, which will minimize like the mindless snacking and wasted calories that way. And a small protein before bed is not a bad idea. Maybe cottage cheese or an egg, Greek yogurt, something like that. It's going to give your body the fuel that it needs to repair while you're sleeping. And something that's super easy to digest is great before bed. So as far as protein sources, that's the fun part of all this. There's a variety. At Deep Well, we believe whole foods is where you should seek first. So minimizing any processed food as much as possible. But for example, a chicken breast, is going to have about 31 grams of protein in a 4-ounce serving. That's super easy to eat. Eggs are a phenomenal source. They're complete protein. So each egg's going to have about 6 grams of protein. It's a fast, versatile, and inexpensive protein. Ground beef, let's shoot for a 90% lean, minimizing the fat, but that's going to give you about 22 grams for a 3-ounce serving. And then salmon is also a phenomenal resource with 25 grams per 4 ounces, and it's also going to have those healthy fats for you. Now, non-meat proteins, you can look at your Greek yogurt. A cup of that's about 17 grams. Great snack, good base for a breakfast. Cottage cheese, super underrated, 25 grams per cup. It works well with fruit or on its own. And then tuna is probably one of the most affordable high protein options at 27 grams per 4-ounce serving. And you compare that with some crackers for a quick carb and protein snack or lunch, or just snack in general, quick treat. And so as far as convenience goes, it's a great option to have on the go. Aside from that, we've got protein shakes. There's a variety of options out there. Most of them are going to have between 25 and 30 grams. Just try to search for something that's minimally processed, as few ingredients as possible. And the same thing goes for protein bars. Those usually have between 15 and 20 grams. Try to minimize sugar and extra ingredients on those. And then other real food options would be like deli meat, edamame, lentils, string cheese, things like that are also great resources for on the go. When it comes to protein, it's not about being perfect. It's about hitting that goal throughout the day. So if you can get to your target with real sources, amazing. If we've got to pick some of these alternate sources to hit it, let's do it. So 3 things I want you to do. Calculate what your number needs to be. Total body weight times 0.7 up to 1.25. And then track it. All right. So track your food for a few days, see where you are, and then make adjustments so that you make sure that you're hitting those numbers. And then the third thing would be just try to add a protein source to every meal that you eat. All right. You don't want to just completely shift your diet, but let's just slowly add in a little extra protein, or if you are someone who doesn't have a protein in every meal, add in a protein, drink a shake before bed, give your body that fuel to recover. Just try to hit your target. All right. Figure out your number and hit your target. So we talked about a lot there. Find your number, find your target, find the best resource or best source of protein for you. Whole foods are going to be your first option. And then from there, we'll fill it in with some shakes, bars, things like that. Protein's not super complicated. It just gets overlooked. And, sometimes we go for the carb sources first, and then we don't have room for the protein. So that would be another little tip that I would give you is when you're looking down at your dinner plate, eat your protein first. All right. And then carbs, and then, put some healthy fats on there too, but eat that protein first so that you make sure that when you're trying to eat your meal, that your body's getting that most important fuel first and not the last resource that you may not have enough room for at the end of lunch or dinner, whatever the meal is that you're eating. So I hope this is helpful. If you have any questions, please let us know. We do have 2 nutrition coaches at Deepwell. So if you'd like some help and some guidance with this, we'd be more than happy to walk you through that. Nutrition is super easy, but also can feel super complicated. So having somebody walk through that with you and give you some guidance and accountability is typically what it takes for most of us to get consistent with the changes and the things that we need to do to hit the goals that we have. So if we can help in any way, just reach out, let us know. Again, I hope this information was helpful for you. If you have any questions, let us know. If you have any other topics that you'd like us to talk about, as always, put it in the comments, and we'll touch on that on a future episode. So like, comment, subscribe, all those fun things. I appreciate you listening, and we'll see you in the next one.